time traveler with the Federation of Quantum Voyagers. You see that right there? There it is. Hey kids, you know where I'm at today? I am in the Palace of Versailles in France. This place is huge. There's over 700 rooms in this place. It's the size of 12 football fields. Can you believe that, kids? 12 football fields. Whoa! What is that guy doing right there? He needs to put a shirt on. Don't you say, kids? Hey, you know what though? This place was built by King Louis XIV of France. And you know what? He spared no expense. Inside there's things covered in gold. There's statues made of marble. There's everything that you can imagine. The very, very best. He built this new palace because he wanted to show off how wealthy, how much money he had, and how powerful he was. But you know what, kids? You know what was happening at this time in France? That's right, kids. The people in France were very, very poor. In fact, many were starving. King Louis XIV didn't spend his money on helping those people. No, he spent his money on helping himself and making himself look good by building a brand new palace filled with gold and marble statues and everything else. Kids, that makes me think. It reminds me of a parable Jesus told about a rich man. You know what, kids? We're in our series called Tell Me a Story about the parables of Jesus. You know, kids, I keep thinking that I keep going to the wrong place by accident. But maybe, just maybe, God is sending me these places so that we can learn a little bit more about what His Word says. Anyway, kids, in a little bit, Pastor Karina's going to come up and she's going to tell you the Bible story. And then Pastor Nick is going to come up and give you the rest of the lesson. Kids, I want to see if I can get inside of this place. I want to see all these gold-covered things and these marble statues. But right now, I'm going to hand it over to my good friend, Wiggy Pop, and he's going to tell you what you got to know.
What you gotta know. What you gotta know. What you gotta know. What you gotta know. Yeah! Hey there, boys and gals. My name is Wiggy Pop, and I'm here to have a rockin' time teaching you what you gotta know. Today, we are talking about another parable that Jesus told. The parable of the rich fool. So every time today you hear somebody ask you what you gotta know, you tell them, I love God more than my stuff. Some people have lots of stuff. It's true. Did you know that I have a collection of air guitars? I have over 2,450 air guitars, and I keep them nice and neat. In fact, I put them in alphabetical order. I love my air guitars, but I could never love them as much as I love God. I'll never love stuff more than God. I keep Him number one. Number one. And I put Him first. You should do the same thing. You should put God number one in your life, way above your toys, your money, or your possessions. So every time somebody asks you what you gotta know, you tell them, I love God more than my stuff. And that right there is what you gotta know. This is Wiggy Pop, and I'll see you next time. Rock on! What you gotta know? I love God more than my stuff.
Kids, great job with that what you gotta know. I got inside the Palace of Versailles. Look at this place. It's spectacular, kids. Wow, look at that. You know what, kids? I was looking in my History of Everything book, and you know what it says? It says that King Louis XIV like to spend a lot of money on himself. He says that he spent in his lifetime over $5 million on buttons alone. Did you hear me, the kids? I said buttons. These things right here. He spent over $5 million in his life on buttons. My goodness, kids. Hey, you know what though? Right now, we're going to sing a worship song. So hop to your feet and let's worship Jesus.
It's time to play some music. It's time to make some noise. It's time to dance, clap your hands, don't stand still. Now let me hear you lose your voice. Come on, listen up. Let's go. Listen up, we got a reason why we're singing. Who I wanna be. Take control, feel the music in your soul. Who I wanna be. I'm a child of God, you know it. Hey, I was born for this. It's why I was made. Don't have to be afraid, 'cause I know that I am saved. A child of God, that's who I wanna be. Listen up, we got a reason why we're singing. Who I wanna be. Take control, feel the music in your soul. Who I wanna be. Hey, listen up, we got a reason why we're singing. Who I wanna be. Take control, feel the music in your soul. Who I wanna be. Now put your hands up high, put them way down low. Move side to side, stop. Let's go. Come on, come on. Let me see you dance. Come on, come on. Listen up, we got a reason why we're singing. Who I wanna be. Take control, feel the music in your soul. Who I wanna be. Hey, listen up, we got a reason why we're singing. Who I wanna be. Take control, feel the music in your soul. Who I wanna be. Put your hands up high and let 'em know. Who I wanna be. Move side to side, come on, let 'em know. Who I wanna be. Put your hands up high, hands down low, side to side, let 'em know. Who I wanna be. Put your hands up high, hands down low, side to side, let 'em know. Who I wanna be.
Hi kids, it's Pastor Karina. Today I want to share a parable from Luke chapter 12. Jesus was teaching a large group of people. All of a sudden, while he was teaching, a man interrupted Jesus and began complaining about someone who owed him money. Can you imagine that? The man was concerned with his money that he thought it was more important than hearing Jesus teach. Jesus knew that there were many people in the crowd who loved their money and stuff way more than they should. So he told them a story of a very rich man. This man owned a lot of stuff. In fact, this man owned so much land, cattle, grain, and stuff, he didn't even have enough space to store it all. One day, the rich man was looking out on his land and all his possessions, and he said to himself, I'm going to tear down my barns and build bigger ones to hold all of my possessions. He didn't think to share his stuff with the poor or give some of it to the church or anything like that. All he thought about was himself and his stuff. At that very moment, God spoke to the man and he said, "You fool, you're going to die tonight. And then who is going to get everything you worked for?" Do you know what? This is exactly what happened, boys and girls. That night, the man died. He had been so focused on his stuff, but now his life was over. How much of his stuff do you think that he got to take with him when he died? That's right, boys and girls, none. He wasn't able to take any of it. Jesus was making a point with this story. He was teaching the people that focusing on money, possessions, and stuff is not worth it. All of that stuff is worth nothing when you die. Greed is not something we should allow to be in our lives. It causes us to focus our time, energy, and passions on money and stuff. Instead, you should focus your time and energy and passions on the things of God. Only a relationship with God will matter once you die. All of the other stuff won't matter at all. Today in our lesson, we're going to learn that it is important to be content with what we have and stay away from greed. This is a lesson that could change your life.
What you gotta know? I love God more than my stuff.
Hey kids, it's me, Just in Time, with your Canyon Kids breaking news. How many of you have been doing the brain drain quiz each week? Every week someone gets a prize. Get all the questions correct and be entered into a drawing for the prize. Last week's winner was Sierra Ellis. Everybody give a big shout out to Sierra, because we all know she can hear you right now. This just in, fresh off the press. This Friday night at 6 o'clock, we are going to have another Zoom party. This one's going to be extra special. It is the Canyon Kids Bible Trivia Challenge. The one who answers the most questions correctly will win a prize. And it's going to be a big one, I hear. Lastly, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's it, kids, for this week. This is Just in Time, signing off for Canyon Kids Breaking News.
My name is Roxanne Teast, but nobody goes by Roxanne anymore, so you can just call me Artiste. I'm in the middle of a wonderful masterpiece right now, but I need to take a break. So while I'm taking a break, why don't you help me with today's power verse? The problem is I sleepwalk at night, and last night I started painting the power verse, but I was using pictures instead of words. And now I have no idea what it was supposed to say. So why don't you help me? Let's look at it together and see if we can find out what it's supposed to say. Oh, it's another sheep. We've seen that one before. We know what that is. It's you. You soda. No, not that. You drink. No. You can. Ah, yes, you can. Tied up. No. You can not. Oh, you cannot. Wow, we got it. You cannot serve God, and I think I've gotten this one by now. That is B. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to dollar signs. No, not quite. Maybe it's cash. No. I've got it. It's money. Luke 16:13. Yes, that's it. I'm so glad you could help me. Now we must make sure that we don't forget it. So everyone stand up and let's say it all together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Luke 16:13. Great job, everyone. Well, I've just finished my favorite masterpiece I've done so far. Do you want to see it? All right, let me show you now. This is a masterpiece of my hometown of Rogersville, but nobody calls it Rogersville anymore, it's just Arville. But would you like to see the horizon cityscape of Arville, my hometown? Here it is. Did I mention that my family is the only family to live there? Well, that's my house right there. Population 3.5. But you see, my cat Bubbles lost a few legs, so we only count him as half now. But that's it, that is Arville. Don't you love it? It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, it touches my heart. Well, thank you so much for your help on today's Powerverse, everyone. I'll see you later, boys and girls. Goodbye.
Kids, it's me, Roscoe D. I'm still inside the Palace of Versailles. Hey, great job with that Powerverse, but look at this place. This place is spectacular. You see the statues and all the gold and the paintings on the ceiling and the chandeliers. King Louis XIV, he spent a lot of money on this place. And you know what? I found out by looking in my History of Everything book, it took over 21 years for this palace to be built. 21 years. And he spent all of this money for all these things while his own people were starving and in poverty. You know what, kids? Right now, Pastor Nick's going to come up and he is going to give you the rest of your lesson.
Hey kids, we're learning a very important story about Jesus' parable today. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to be rich? Of course. But I'm not talking just, you have a little bit of money. I'm talking like a ton of money, where you have a 100-inch square TV, or you have a pool in your house that goes into a water slide that goes into another pool. I mean, that type of rich. We have every game system. You have game systems for each room in your house, so you can have whatever you want. Have you ever wanted to be that kind of rich? Of course. Well, in this story today that we learned, this guy in this day had everything. When I mean everything, I mean everything. Everything you could have wanted, he had. But let me ask you one more question. What do you think? Do you think it was all worth it for him? No, of course not. Do you think if he could go back, he would change something? Well, we'll see in a few minutes. All right, let me tell you, nothing is more important than a relationship with God. Nothing is worth more than a relationship with God. And I'm not saying that these type of things are bad, but money and stuff, it won't last. Nothing will last. Eventually, that game system will break down. Eventually, your pool will have cracks in it. Nothing lasts like Jesus. Let me ask you a question. When you think of a funeral, if you've ever gone to a funeral, have you ever seen someone taking a U-Haul with all their stuff, or put their house onto some truck and taking it to the gravesite? No, of course not. That's silly. You can't take stuff to the grave with you. When you die, your stuff stays. You can't take anything with you when you go. Money won't last. If you remember what Jesus did, Jesus told us to love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Now, what does that mean? It means that we must make God number one in our life. What does that mean? Well, it means that we need to put God above everything else. That means above your favorite toy, or for some of you, your favorite blankie, or anything else. Your phone, you need to make God more important than any of these things. How do we make God number one in our life? So I challenge you this week, kids. Let's make a challenge. Let's see if we can make God number one in our life. I want to challenge you with this. This week, would you put down your game system? Would you put down your video games? Or would you put down the TV, the Netflix? I know we're all locked in a little bit, but let's see if we can spend a little bit more time with God and less time watching TV or with Netflix. I think that when we spend more time on other things than we spend on God, we see where our priorities are. Like this man with this issue, when he has all of these money and all of this stuff, he spent more of his time running after those things than after God. So today, if I were to ask you, what are you spending more time on, with God or other things? This week, I want to challenge you to see if you can spend more time with God than other things. Okay, one more time. What did we learn from this rich man this week? What have we learned from his life? Well, number one, nothing is more important than our relationship with God. Was it worth it for him? Of course not. Number two, money and stuff won't last. It just doesn't last. And number three, we must make God number one in our life. So this week, one more time, let me challenge you and myself to this, to spend more time with God than with other things.
Hey kids, it's me, Roscoe G. Hey, I'm back at my time machine. I'm ready to get out of here. But you know what? I had to do a couple of things first. Number one, I had to get my friend here a shirt. Secondly, I had to listen to Pastor Nick's lesson. That was a great lesson, Pastor Nick. And you know what, kids? God does want us to put him number one. Not money, not possessions, not anything else. And you know something else I learned today, kids? I learned that King Louis XIV, he spent a lot of money building this great palace with expensive gold things and statues and chandeliers. But you know what happened to King Louis XIV? That's right, kids, he died. And you know what? He couldn't take any of this with him. It's all still here. And you know what? We can't take anything with us either. That's why we need to keep God number one in our lives and do everything we can for him. Hey kids, I'm Roscoe D. I'll see you next time. Bye kids.